God.
I did not see where that was going.
Oh, so bad. Oh.
Dennis.
Eric COVID.
I
What
have
the hell, man?
the coronavirus. The novel coronavirus.
Positive. You and your son.
SARS-CoV-19. Yeah. So
Delta variant?
I don't know what variant. I'm thinking maybe Omega. But it's just the best theory we have is that sometime in my travels in the airport, or the airplane, although in theory the airplanes are supposed to be pretty safe, but
compared to a crowded airport.
Compared to the airport. And I had my mask on pretty much the whole time, except for maybe sitting at an airport bar sucking on a Heineken. But so the timeline is that I came back on late on a Thursday, and I spent Friday self-quarantining. And then on Saturday, I spent the day with my family, and Sunday as well, and slept Saturday and Sunday nights in the same bedroom as my wife, and I guess Monday and Tuesday too. And then like at the end of Tuesday, I noticed I had a sore throat and a cough, but then I started to feel like a general I feel like shit, and I took my temperature and I had just a tiny degree of fever. And at that point, I guess the following morning, I woke up and didn't feel that great. And my son also said my belly hurts, just what his symptom has been. And I took his temperature and he was a little high on the high side. And so I told him not to go to school. That was on the Wednesday.
That was a good move.
That we recorded that. No, that was on the Thursday because Wednesday was a holiday here. And anyway, on the Thursday, I went to the pharmacy and got these antigen tests, which apparently test for something that marks whether or not there's a lot of the virus in you or not. And it was a nose swab. It wasn't quite a PCR up into your brain thing, but it was an easy enough test to do in a couple minutes. And they said, wait for 30 minutes for your test result. No, they said, wait between 15 and 30 minutes. Longer than 30 minutes, it's not accurate, but you need to wait 15 minutes. But like within 30 seconds, there were two very clear lines marking positive. And so since my son was home that day, I did one on him too, and he was also positive. And so then when my daughter got home and then my wife, we tested them as well, and they were both negative.
Wonderful.
Which makes...
Are you separating the house then?
It doesn't make sense though, because we were so together and breathing the same air, and I was hugging and kissing them and stuff. But
that your ability to get it isn't necessarily equal to your ability to spread it. And so while you might have got a big enough hit of it that you snorted it all up and there you were, I
took a big old COVID toke.
It's just like big COVID toke, and that's it. So the other thing is transmittability.
True, we're all
particularly
different.
If it's not the Delta variant, then it's more likely that a vaccination with your daughter and your spouse would not be penetrated if it wasn't Delta. And even if you have the Delta, you on the other hand might have snorted so much of it, not Delta, but so much of it, that it was like, no, we broke through, man. It's like the sperm attacking the egg, and they're all after it. Only one gets in, kind of thing. But there you have it.
So I shouldn't have been making out with my seat partner in the plane. Is that what we're saying?
No, I'm not saying that. In fact, it goes without saying.
Okay. So but my sister-in-law, who was with us that weekend, did get it. Whatever. Each of us are more or less likely to receive stuff. So and because my daughter had gotten her second vaccine dose like within 10 days of my positive, means that she hasn't been able to go to school this week. If she had been vaccinated a week before, then she would have been cleared to go to school. So she's negative. She doesn't have it, but
so are you splitting your house into half, a male half and a female half?
Because we have this other apartment where my office is, and it's a 1-bedroom apartment. My son and I have been living over here for this time, and the girls are on the other place. And so we are very lucky in that we have this easy ability to divide, like we have 2 freaking houses basically. But that does not stop really both of us, but especially my son, from really wanting to be in the other house again. He's tired of this house. But he's also at the age where you can, if you say, look, this is unprecedented, here, have all the screen time you want in a day, that mollifies him in a way, whatever.
Lucky but barely describes it.
And the fact that we have almost no symptoms is thanks science, I like to say.
Which, and also not to let people think that's going to be the case with them necessarily. But you're young and healthy, and your family's young and healthy.
And we got vaccinated.
You got fully vaccinated, and plus you eat well and you live well, and you're not doing a lot of susceptible things. Your trip to Croatia was bound to put you in contact with the virus. It was a similar risk to what I'm taking in a week to go to New York.
Apparently, of the 1,500 attendees of the conference, only 2 of us reported a positive COVID afterwards. So it wasn't from the conference, it was from us.
It was getting and coming. I was convinced, based on what you said, that the conference attendance was a big eggshell of safety. But getting there and back, particularly back, when you're tired and more susceptible, and you went to all these after parties, one after another. Well,
it was a party and then an after party and then an after party.
Well, and it's called the after
party.
And then at some point, what's next party?
It's like the early party at some point.
Oh, of course.
We start partying before the next day begins.
That's right.
Pre-party. So you have some feedback.
Yes. Yes. So thank you for sending me. It was interesting to listen to the entire 30 minutes, which I did in 15-minute increments. And I got to a point in the first 15 minutes when I understood everything you were doing, and because I used the type of form that you were describing, and I've been curious about how it's built. So I was struck by how the logic was, shall we say, logical. And at some point it became clear that you have your own language, and of words that are like foreign words to me, that could be like coming out of an alien's mouth.
Interesting.
This is what we call a quago. This is what we call a dewando.
Yes, yes.
And everyone, 1,100 people nodding yes. Of course we know. But then I went through it, and I'm glad I did, because 2 things struck me. 2 things struck me more than anything. One is that several, and particularly in the first half, your confidence level being high, your content being sound, simple, more or less cleverly presented with some interesting kind of shtick to it, which I kind of like, the potion and the magic shit and all that.
Right.
But to make it certainly more interesting, because it is a dry subject, particularly as you described what everybody understands in that room, a tribe, which of course in some ways you lead, which is very distinct from, and maybe even prone to enemize those of us who are not technically astute. And there was a reference you made to the non-IT world, and I was certain that it was capitalized and you could turn it into an acronym.
Oh no.
I raised my hand and I said, that's me.
Do you remember what I said? Do you remember what the word was?
Exactly?
Non-technical people, maybe I said.
I thought so.
Yeah, I definitely said that phrase.
But this is what struck me, why I was glad I stuck around through it, was because when you showed how the software developed the logic model in terms of process chart, and it was a basic flow chart,
yep,
I about fell off, as it turns out, the couch. Because the work I do creates those processes painstakingly using Visio.
Yes.
And I can't imagine, after getting a professional Visio stenographer to record an active meeting of 8 people who, through a committee structure, if you will, are creating the flow chart of how a case moves from one point of the system to the other. Simple stuff. That's what we do in my world. And in your world, you just do your work, and then this thing you develop gives it to you. And I'm like, I want to hire you to do.
The people that wrote that visualizer are friends of mine. I did not write that, but it is super amazing. Hey, do you know what you need in your meetings? You need a Visiotherapist.
Yeah.
Just to get you through the.
So the Visiotherapist
chart.
says, so as you're talking, I can't help thinking about which comes first. Which feeling comes first? And then looking at each of those two feelings, which direction do they each take you?
Which precedes. It's a Visiotherapist. Yeah, that's one of the cool things. And what's crazy about this particular technology is that it's based on 40-year-old academic papers. The people that originally invented what they call this finite state machine, where a great example is a digital watch. So you've got your typical digital watch and you press a button and now you're in stopwatch mode or something. And now another button will start and stop and another one does reset. And then you can press another button to go back to the main watch mode. And this concept of modeling the current state of your application it's ancient, and it's what like all video games use, but it was forgotten or whatever for what it is that I do of building web pages and stuff. And we model the current state of the application in a totally different way that is much more error prone than this particular way of the visualization is like this perk that you get at the end, but it makes so much more sense to think about the way that your program is working with this state machine before you even get to the visualization.
Right.
And my biggest regret from that talk was that there was a button I could have pressed on my screen that would have built that chart as I was typing.
Oh.
And that would have just blown the fucking room to shreds.
Yeah.
Because it would have been like, holy shit. Because there was a whole bunch of time where I was typing and I was saying, and this goes to this, and you hit previous, and you go to this, and you go next to this. But if I had that like running where it was generating this chart in real time, that would have been so amazing. But
I had a question. First, before I ask my question.
You there. And if
I wanted to say the biggest reason and the second reason that I was glad I went all the way through it. The first, of course, was what we're talking about now, the logic chart, or the process chart. The next thing was how you talked about and then gave away access to shit that'll make them work better. And your intro to that, before you introduced what it was you meant, you made a statement about working in environments and getting in a zone. And it was the best thing you said and how you said it for the entire 30 minutes.
Sweet.
It made all of what I sat through, which I'm going to say worth it. I shouldn't say that at all because it was worth it. But this was the icing on the cake, as you might say, the veritable icing on the cake.
And that part was like, feel like in general, the idea that someone has invited me to come talk. And the idea is that I'm going to spew out a bunch of technical knowledge for the people there to understand and to use in their work. And I feel bad giving a spiel, a little sales pitch at the end, because
it actually, and you tried to do this, and I'm telling you succeeded. It wasn't a pitch. It was an opportunity. You gave them something. You gave them something of value. It wasn't a pitch. A pitch would be if you do something like that but not give them anything. A pitch would be go to our website. What you did was you said, I'm going to talk to you about this. I'm going to give it to you.
Yeah.
And certainly a pitch man would say, well, of course, that was the pitch, an exceptionally well done one, where the pitchee doesn't know that the pitcher is pitching. Because what they're focused on is, oh, wow. Because when you said what you said, some percentage of people in that room said, yeah, I really agree. And so what? And so you say, so here's this thing. And they look at each other and they go, cool, right?
Yeah. What I love about my current role is that I'm building a thing for people like me. And it's so easy for me to sell what we make because it's for people like me, and I can express that.
Yes. And that expression, the expression that you made, that feeling you made was one of absolute excitement. That's why that statement stood out. You were interesting and very almost erudite throughout the thing, but you showed passion. Only then, not until then, not any, and your voice was a different octave. You spoke at a different pace. You were more animated facially and physically. And if I were you, I would say, okay, I got this 30 minutes. How can I market this? That's the clip. That's the clip. That's you saying to this crowd in that voice, panning the crowd, which I'm sure you've got a view of that somewhere because there was cameras all over the place.
Right.
And that was the actual stadium you showed being built where you were, or just another one?
That was where I was.
And so the case is that the photography that was there throughout that was there throughout yours.
Yeah.
And so there must be any number of panning the crowds. But the point is that the and here's the question, and then I'll bring all this together. But here's the question. On a scale of 1 to 5, given the world you work in, given your skill level, not theirs, but yours. So it's a two-part question. Yours, what was, on a scale of 1 to 5, what was the difficulty of the work you were describing, or the complexity of the work you're describing, compared to all the work that's in your portfolio on a scale of 1 to 5 for you?
Where 5 is difficult?
5 is, this is challenging shit.
Okay.
And 1 is, as you may know.
Right. So this is, as often happens, this is fairly high level stuff, but it's also what I do all day.
Is it very elementary though? To
me, what I built was quite elementary.
But that's the question. It's about you.
Yes. For me, it was a 1.5 out of 5.
Okay. So this was my guess. Was it 2?
Right.
That's what I thought. And it's written down right over here. Let me show you the paper. So the same question, when they looked at it by majority, plurality, or whatever, in general, that audience heard something that in their world was a level of complexity of what? If yours was 1.52, what was theirs? In general, it's a big generalization. There's 1,100 people who went.
I'm going to say 4.5 because what I demonstrated was probably a way of programming that none of them has ever done before. And my goal was to do a fairly simple introduction into how that is done with a little bit of complexity. There was that one step where you had to jump over one step, and that's all the complexity that I wanted to get them.
But what you did with them was you provided them what they might even, interesting certainly, they may even say provocative or exceptional information. And you had their interest the entire time. There wasn't a lot of sound of fidgeting or people talking or anything. It was clear by your demeanor that the crowd was engaged.
Yeah, I had to say, everybody shut the fuck up a couple times. But
no, it was you were engaging, and that's what I've said earlier. But my guess was quite a bit their level of, oh, wow, to this was at least twice as much or more than yours. Because I realized that you, as senior, are talking to the people that I know who go to a lot of conferences. Aren't a lot of seniors. They're people who are earlier on. They're in the beginning of their careers rather than the end. Under an old dog, new tricks mantra. But in that
my favorite talks that I watch are the ones where when it's over, my sensation is, oh my God, I want to go use that and build a thing.
And do you think they walked away with that?
And so that's what I try and instill in people.
Do you think they walked away with that with the forms training?
I think so. But again, as I mentioned last week, none of the attendees ever came up to tell me anything.
And the conference is on evidence-based that they didn't do an evaluation?
There was a rating system in some app, but like I got 8 ratings or something. Which
out of 1,100?
Yeah. So who knows? Like I also watched a bunch of talks and didn't go to the app to rate anybody because it wasn't presented in that way. Like if there had been like a reminder where the MC came back on and be like, okay, everybody go to your app and plug in what you thought of this talk or whatever.
We got one more thing to tell you, but before we do, we're going to take about 3 minutes and go to that app. I'll be right back with you. Here it is on the screen. One more thing, I'll be right back.
Exactly. Stuff like that. So yeah, no, I don't have a lot of feedback in that way.
Well, that's unprofessional, by the way. I find that remarkably unprofessional, that an organization that purports, as this one does, to follow some degree of science, and not to confuse necessarily what you do as a technical skill as science.
Right.
It is built on a lot of science, but in itself, it's not a scientific enterprise. It's a technical enterprise, which I think are two different things. Technical exercise built on a great deal of science, in fact, almost kind of science fiction shit. That's what you do for a living. You're like in the real live version of what the science fiction writers were talking about when they made up all this wild shit. And you're like, hey, man, I do that. Yeah. But so now I want to tie this all together with what I'm about, with my conclusion of the highlight of the event being your passionate excitement for letting them see this product. And the best part of that was why you were excited. Why you were excited. Because what you said to them was, I am in your world, and I'll tell you, I know what it's like for all of us to have to do this work, which is, at the end of the day, kind of tedious, repetitive. Once you pass the creative software and then you're just a bunch of data entry. It's entry after entry after entry after entry after entry after entry.
Wait, we gotta put Dennis.
And you were excited. Compare that excitement to the excitement of a 1.5 dynamic standard of presentation. 1.5, speaking to a group of 5, level 5, your level of excitement could only be so high.
Right.
Because your excitement about what you consider elementary stuff is, well, your excitement would be, I don't know, elementary?
Yeah.
Right? But you were excited. You were enthusiastic. You said, oh, wow, this is cool. Let's do this. That wasn't passion, though. That was just interest in minor excitement.
Showmanship.
So here's the clip, and I want you to consider doing this just for me.
Okay.
Just clip that and figure out what you want to show on the screen, because it's a close-up of you saying what you were saying. It's your head and shoulder shot, pretty much what was on the tape. A little closer than that. And then you put you slide your product stuff in one line at a time. And I will tell you what, you send that upstairs to the honchos and they'll say, whoa,
Oh, I've shared my talk with everyone.
Oh,
in
no,
my
I don't
company.
mean the talk. I don't mean the talk, although that's what I mean. This clip, this ad. Boom. So I got a couple things we need to talk about.
Yeah. So part of me thinks that I could create an entire talk all about what it means to be a computer programmer and getting into this flow states and et cetera, et cetera. Like, I think there's enough material there to talk about all the psychology behind flow and stuff. Like, I just barely touched on.
That's a keynote speech.
Yeah, I just barely touched on, but it's a keynote speech, but God, it feels like an ad. But however, there are other talks that I go to where it's technical stuff about, hey, this is how to use this database product to streamline your bottom line, blah, 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 blah. And the person is an employee of that database product. And so maybe there's some potential there.
You're very effective, from what I've seen in that clip, at responding to that issue. And so, in fact, I think you responded it so well that I think it's highly exceptional. So that's why I'm suggesting cutting and clipping it, which I hope you will do. And you've got to push through two things. One is somehow you think it's a pitch. This is just
business.
It's what it is. It's what it is. And if you want to feel a little better about it, put it on, take a picture of it, put it on a cloth, and on the cloth have a bunch of Velcro gold dollar signs.
Okay.
But, that's it. That's it.
Yeah. So I'm pleased with the result. I didn't expect quite this much praise, but
that's the first thing you got to get past. The second thing you got to get past is, geez, I feel a little funny just putting my own face up there and generating like I'm at the center of it somehow. You got to push through that because this is the fact, and this is a business fact. You are one of the faces of the company, and that means that you might as well have a fucking banner, put it on your fucking forehead. And it's part of your right. It's part of your corporate responsibility to wear only that face when you're in the professional public's eye.
Right.
And in fact, a company might say you need to comport yourself according to certain standards. That when you're at a conference and you go to one of these after parties, you're not one of the guys who's standing there wearing his jockey shorts that look suspiciously like Speedos, dancing on the table with a martini in your hand.
Shit. I'll have to change for next time.
I knew it. I knew it.
I didn't think they released that video.
The video's out, bruh.
Yeah, I did a little bit of Twitter marketing, but so far I think my talk has more views on YouTube than any other talk at the conference. So I'm pleased by that.
That's a signal to it. And we're getting hits on both our podcasts to a degree that certainly surprised, but particularly the one that we stopped doing.
Right.
It's people are clicking that shit. They're clicking that shit.
Yeah. I wonder how they're getting there. Yeah, I don't know.
They're researching it. They might type in. Anyway, we don't want to switch over to the other.
Whatever.
It's anyway, that's that. So I got on this note.
Yes.
On this note, I want to segue. Do you know Billions is back on the air again?
I did not.
Oh my God, yes. And they're already 2 episodes. What they did was they took season 5,
I don't know,
which ended before it was over. And the season ended because of COVID. And what they did was they picked up episode 8. Or episode 7, maybe whatever, but there's 2 episodes left. And they just picked up where the season left off. But here's the striking thing. Is that Paul Giamatti, during COVID, lost a bunch of weight, shaved his beard off.
Oops.
And his hair has gone completely gray. And it's fascinating. I still have to talk about this. And I'll just say a few things because you'll need to see it before it means much. Is that just watching how they handle the way he looks differently, okay? It's just one instantaneous opening scene. But the episode, coming up, a bit of a spoiler here, is about Axe, who wants to open a bank, as from prior episodes.
Oof. I don't know the last where it was on Billions at the last time. I don't know.
Did you know that Axe was going to start a bank, or you may not recall?
I can't even remember if that.
Okay, then I won't even go there with that. But suffice it to say that it's back and it's back strong, and in a couple of episodes. But one of the topics is about money, is about the marijuana industry, and there's a scene. I'm going to mention it to you, and you remember it in the 2 episodes. There's a scene that is what's his ass Giamatti's character cooking an omelet for Mike Prince and for his daughter. And I want you to remember this scene, and we could dedicate a whole episode to it. It's about it's a 2 or 3 minute scene. And
cooking an omelet and marijuana is involved.
Indirect. Yeah. Yes, it is in the scene immediately before it. But I don't want to. It's not so much about that. It's about what the director and what the screenwriter and the director wanted to do with this clip that you'll remember.
All right. I will put that on the possible homework for the future.
So you've done some homework.
We have Eden, I finished. And I've watched the second episode of Scenes from a Marriage. I don't know where you want to start with.
Let's talk about Eden.
Okay. So I do like this genre of the same story told from the perspective of a different character.
It's wonderful.
Every episode.
It's wonderful.
Like while I also can't recall another show that has done that, although some movies do that. It was fun, but
it was exceptional, I thought.
It helps if you're binging and you can hold all of it in your memory as you go. Yeah. Because one time a week passed between a couple episodes and I was a little bit lost, but it's a cool genre. And as you said last time, you said you have to watch them all until we can talk about it, because
that's right.
It's not a show it's not a story that unfolds. It's like the whole story is contained.
It's a scene from above. All these different characters.
I'm sure there are novels that do that too. Aren't there novels that follow a different character for each chapter or whatever? Yeah.
Yes. Sometimes not in the same time space as this is.
Right.
But given the screenwriting, the location, the premise, all that, I gotta premise this. I gotta give you the premise as to why I said I don't want to talk about it until you've seen the whole thing, because this is what you've said about crime stuff. You said I don't like the ones so much that I don't know who did it. I just as soon watch them and know who did it from the beginning and just watch how all that unfolds. And I said...
You think that's my position?
You said it. I assume so, unless you were making it up at the time.
No, I think you're mischaracterizing my position.
Let me say this.
What I don't like.
To start. If I am, I'm not doing it purposefully.
Okay, look.
I'm not trying to mischaracterize.
You're negating what is my pet peeve of... You watch the whole series, and then in the last episode, a new character appears, and they were the one that did it. So it's not that I want to know from the beginning. I want the character that is guilty to have been there from the beginning. Anyway,
as I recall that, I misunderstood it.
Yes.
Or as you would say, mischaracterized it. Therefore, some of the premise of me telling you to wait. But regardless of that.
But it was clear to me pretty early on that who the bad cop was, and also that the bumbling drunkard cop was also going to be the one to crack the case.
Well, and that's pretty. I thought that was. I agree with that. You would figure that out as well. But let me just ask you this: on a scale of 1 to 5, we're on a scale night tonight.
All right,
it's a fish night. Scale of 1 to 5. How surprised were you in the final episode of who the perpetrator actually was? 5 being, I fell off my chair. 1 was, I knew that.
So the perpetrator of which crime?
The murder of the lead character. The central crime of the entire series.
The murder of Hedwig.
Yes.
Remind me who that was. The murder of...
Remind you who the murder... Wait a minute. I thought you said you just watched this shit.
I watched this late at night.
You got a COVID symptom. It lives in your memory.
It wasn't the cop, was it?
Oh my God. Wait a minute. You know what? We're done with this. Go back, watch it again.
Shit. Okay.
We'll have this meeting. I can't believe it.
I apologize.
You didn't do your homework. You walked through it. It's like the teacher gave you a book to read, and you sped through it. You turned all the pages. Yeah. The book was done. You threw it down. You said, "My homework's over." No.
Yeah. Okay. No. I will go back and take better notes. One question. What the fuck sort of a name is Hedwig?
Hedwig? Named after Saint Hedwig. Google it.
There's a saint.
Yes.
I did Google it, and the primary Hedwig is the, not to pull it back to my talk, but is the owl from Harry Potter. Apparently he's named Hedwig.
Saint Hedwig actually is a few centuries ahead of the Harry Potter character.
Ahead of J.K. Rowling. Saint Hedwig. And is it a male name?
I think so. I don't know, frankly. I don't know.
Saint Hedwig. Saint Hedwig. St. Hedwig, Texas. City of St. Hedwig of Celestia. All right, so is a member of the Bavarian, born in 1174. She is...
She?
Yes. This is Hedwig of Celestia. She was canonized.
That's it.
Yes. A member of the Bavarian comital House of Endex.
What did
Duchess
she do
of
that
Celestia.
made her a saint? What was her miracles?
Let's see. She was a widow. Veneration. She was canonized.
Why was she canonized?
Her feast day is on my mother's birthday. According to legend, when she went barefoot, even in winter, she was urged by the Bishop of Wroclaw to wear shoes. She carried them in her hands. She had a great zeal for her faith and supported her husband in donating blah, blah, blah.
So Hedwig was barefoot the entire series.
Yes.
There you go.
There it is.
I've just made the connection for you.
Okay.
Real live television. Right.
Hedwig glasses
Right
are named
here.
after Hedwig. Hedwig glass. So there's a type of...
You seem excited. Might you change your name to Hedwig? At least as a middle name? Erik? Hedwig? Rasmussen?
No.
I like the way the guy pronounced your name. I'll bring you, of course, Erik Rasmussen.
Yeah, I don't... I went over it with him a couple times beforehand.
Hey.
You do what you can do.
Do what you do.
All right, so we're gonna punt Hedwig's murder to next time because fucking COVID erased my memory.
So let's talk about a stunning series. Stunning scenes from a marriage.
So after last week, I went back and I rewatched the first episode to see if I could see any of your Catholic dog whistling bullshit.
Dog whistling. How you?
And
how kind of you.
No, but that's what it is. It's symbolism that is only going to be understood by a subset.
It's an old man, frankly, blowing through a dog whistle. Someone probably pissed in the dog whistle. My brother did that to me.
Yeah.
Here's a shout out to Joe. 12 years old, 8 years old. He's 12, I'm 8, whatever. 10, a couple years older than me. And him and a bunch of his buddies are sitting around where we used to hang out. And they got a whistle. And unbeknownst to me, they pissed in it.
I think you've told this story. I love it. Keep going, though.
And I come in, and my brother says, hey, look what we got. And I said, what is it? And he says, it's a whistle. Oh, really? And I reach for it, and he says, blow it. And I blow it, and piss comes all out of the whistle and goes all over my face. So anyway, that's what that reminds me of. Not a pleasant memory, now that I've said it. Fucking brother.
Yeah, I think we discussed this like 100 episodes ago, and I made the joke that it was a pistol. But
a pistol or a pistol?
Yes.
So scenes of a marriage. Scenes from a marriage. And then
I watched it, and the backlit stuff and the way she was all draped in the sheets and stuff. I don't know. I don't think it was intentional. I don't think what you received was being broadcast necessarily.
I do. I still do. And I will tell you.
The creator of the show and the writer and director and creator is super Jewish. Could lend potentially some.
Would, because this is the thing, is that at the heart of this is religion. At the heart of the series so far is religion. It's the fact that John has forsaken his faith and is forced with an abortion, which in his face, of course, would not be allowed. And so the portrayal of the woman as the Blessed Virgin with is what I'm calling an unmistakable hue of blue.
Mira is her name, which is only one letter away from Maria.
It's in the artistic, in art history, the entire focus or lens of the Virgin Mother of Jesus in historical art has an entire branch of it, which is about the blue-robed halo, pieta type.
I have done some Googling, and I have, for sure, there's a bunch of blue. She's always has a blue.
So if it's not so direct as the Blessed Virgin, it certainly is to bring up the idea of innocence and the sanctity of woman and the painful experience from so many different perspectives, the painful part of the perspective of childbearing, particularly if a loss of a child is involved, which is something that I'm very close to. Mm-hmm. So the fact that imagery was, to me, not only striking, but almost fairly obvious, maybe more about my Catholic upbringing and my understanding. I am surrounded here by no fewer than 3 portraits of the Virgin Mother in my office.
Wow.
My favorite of which I've shown you before. I'm not going to take it off the wall, but it's an abstract. And
Yes.
she's not in a blue robe, she's in a red robe. But no matter.
Is that just because it's part of your sense of self? Or like you don't cross yourself when you walk into the office or anything?
Now that you mention it, I do make the sign of the cross as I genuine before I climb into my chair. No, I am completely happy with and celebrate the whole Virgin Blessed Mother thing. I'm a student of it. It was a big part of my upbringing. It's a mythology without question. And there are so many connections with my life that it's just one of those things that I celebrate. In fact, I've got a painting on a wall of the same woman who painted the Virgin Mother there of 5 saints who are portrayed with the yellow halo. And it's done very stark, jolting kind of manner of the abstract Virgin Mother that I showed you earlier. But
but there are people in Spain.
Angel.
Like some of my neighbors, when they cross the threshold out into the outside, they will cross themselves. Or when walking into the grocery store, they will do a little cross. Just threshold crossing is
Going
a
through a
moment.
corridor.
Threshold. Going from this space to that space is a time to request some help from the Almighty.
Yes.
I guess.
Yes. It says one of our internet connections is unstable.
No, that's...
Did you see that on your screen?
No, that means it's you. I mean...
That means it's me. Well,
you're unstable. But so tell me about...
Getting worse, as that turns out.
Let's back to where we were. You thought it was obvious that they were making a Mary reference in episode 1.
Yeah, and it was
after 2 watchings and even attempting on the second watch to see it. It felt tenuous to me, but then haven't been steeped that off.
It was a moment of imagery at the end of 1. There was no evidence of that imagery again in episode 2. This is what I asked you last time, and maybe there's a pattern here, but you couldn't remember the opening when she was actually an actress, and you somehow missed it. Maybe you were out in the kitchen getting a Coke or something. I don't know. Yeah. You saw that, and then surprise, episode 2 opens similarly, but this time it's Isaac.
And again, on the second watch, I was like, oh, yeah, they did do this. And everything that you said came back and was true. And then, of course, on episode 2, they do it again. And presumably that's going to be a thing that they do every time. And I kind of...
Who would be the third character? I don't think that's true. There's only 2... No, they're not going to do that with somebody new. They might do it with her again. They might do it with him again. Or they might not ever do it again. Well, that's my guess, is that we've seen the end of that. But that's my guess.
It goes so well with the title of the show.
Sure it does. And it's astounding how the scenes are very clearly... There's a cut in between the scenes. There's a pause. It's not lengthy by any stretch. It's almost subliminal, but it's there. And I agree with that. I think that it's absolutely genius to do what they did and to pull it off. So this isn't an outtake.
Right. But this is based on a 1973 Swedish miniseries.
Ingrid Bergman.
Ingmar Bergman. Yes.
Ingmar Bergman.
Yes.
Instead of Ingrid Bergman?
Yes, true.
I got that confused.
Ingmar is the director, apparently. I also confused that. I thought it was the actress, too.
I thought she did a series like this, like she was the woman in it. Okay, well.
No, the actress is someone that we don't know.
It's extraordinarily.
But I'm curious, like, if I had the free time, I would be curious to try and watch that as we were watching the modern one, just to see what would happen. But anyway, episode 2 was pretty horrifying.
Yes,
I mean it's basically whatever your husband fears, or
I don't know
wife
about
as well.
that.
But when your spouse comes to you and says, "Hey, honey, I fell in love," like
that's a bit of a shocker.
That sort of hurts,
as it was for him. Interesting depth of character, how he reacted to that, and how well he did in episode 1 to make his reaction in episode 2 not a surprise at all.
Right.
But in fact, which you almost would have expected from him based on episode 1.
Because he's the calm intellectual of their relationship, whereas she's, not to stereotype, but more passionate and emotional.
Yes, or one might say she's Venus and he is...
Jupiter. No.
Jupiter?
Yeah.
Whatever. Look it up. Google it. We'll see which one's right. I'm riveted. Absolutely riveted.
Yeah, the emotions, like, it's so real. There are actors at the top of their game, And
him packing her suitcase,
right,
told you all you ever need to know about his character.
Right. Look, honey. I know that you're leaving me.
He pushed her out of the way.
But you don't know how to pack a suitcase.
He physically pushed her out of the way. Did you catch that?
I did, yes. He was like, look, you... She was like, maybe I don't need to take all these shoes. And he was like, move. I'm going to make this right. I'm going to make this right. Make the suitcase. Because that's the sort of, control, anally retentive sort of person that he is.
I can't control anything else, but I sure as fuck can control fixing this suitcase.
Right. I can pack my wife's suitcase efficiently so she can leave me. Yeah. Whereas... Heavy. Yeah. Just trying to be in his shoes there with him doing that is just, it's so hard because he's repressing all of that emotion to be intellectual about the best way to Tetris this suitcase together.
Yes. And so let me remind you of the other homework, and this may be our concluding point here.
Oh dear.
Is you didn't do your homework yet, I wouldn't imagine, from American Rust with Jeff Daniels.
Whoa. That was like that was
the second episode is completed.
Oh, no. I remember that we talked about that was the thing that was coming out. But then, no, I've forgotten all about that. American Rust. Okay.
You like me, are going to love it. It is just riveting. And we'll talk about it another time. But you've seen Deer Hunter, the famous Scorsese pick.
I have.
And Christopher Walken.
I've heard a podcast about it, but I don't think I've seen it. It's like really long and scary.
I'm sorry. But it's also the
required.
Best. It's required. It is the best slice of American history on film.
All right. Well,
ever. It is the best slice of history that I'm part of Pennsylvania and that part of the country, of blue collar factory workers, of the Vietnam War and the horrors and the discomfort and the weddings and the Polish and the ethnic joys and the crippled characters.
All right. I'm a little handicapped because I am forced to share an apartment with an 8-year-old at the moment. Well, and I have a movie for children.
There is nothing in this movie that a child should see.
Right. That's about it. All right, I'm going to need to
nothing. But that's a prerequisite for your homework, though, because your homework is American Rust, and I'm suggesting to you that a prequel to American Rust for you is your homework on this. But you don't necessarily have to go in the order.
It's only 7 hours of homework. That's
whatever.
What do I have to do?
What do? You sit around, got nowhere to go.
Exactly.
Right.
No, I have to play video games and stuff here with my captor.
Well, I'm out of here, bro. Out.
All right. By the next time we talk, I should be COVID-free.
Okay.
And then we can cough on each other's faces and stuff through the Zoom call.
I have to break out the COVID blues for the next show. I've got it here somewhere.
Okay. All right. This has been lovely. See y'all next time.
Lovely. It's been lovely.
Okay, that's it for episode number 127. You can find the show notes at happyhour.fm/127, where you can find a link to my talk if you would like to learn a little bit more about JavaScript and state machines and shit. And you can support us at patreon.com/happyhour. We would really appreciate that. Take care of yourself. We'll see you next week.